What's up, guys? I'm Jay,
I'm Christy.
and this is the Trading Floor Podcast, Season 2, Episode 5. And this podcast is kind of like an impromptu because
Yeah.
there was some debates going on in general chat in our Discord. Link down below if you want to join. Shameless plug. But Christy, I mean, people can read the title. Christy, is trading a scam? Like, have I been living
Huh.
a lie for the last 2.5 years? Like, what's going on here?
Is that how you afforded that beautiful apartment behind you? That's how you
I mean,
afford
that's
that.
light work, but
No,
something like that.
yeah. I mean, I feel like this is the probably biggest question you get from beginners is like, is trading a scam or people who have failed? And in reality, trading has a high failure rate. Like that's the reality of it. And it's very easy when you fail at something to be like, it's a scam, it's someone else's fault, it's all a lie. So people tend to take certain
Yeah.
positions in this. But what I would say that we also hear a lot is one is trading a scam. And I mean, I'm living off of it. You guys are all living proof here. All of you are like work from home people now. And, we all have side projects and things that we do as well as trading. But everyone here is living proof that it is possible to leave your like typical 9 to 5 type of job and work from home and be trading while you do that. So is it a scam? I don't know. I got four people here
I,
to
th-
talk about
I
it
think
that
it's an
say
emotional
otherwise.
hot topic because I mean I was negative 3% the other day and I definitely say it's a scam. But then like the other day I was 4% up. I'm like trading is definitely not a scam. It's real. But we brought on some special guests as y'all could see. Y'all know them already, Jinx and Spin. But what's interesting about them is they actually have a little bit of experience in the gambling side of things, so they can actually have an honest opinion being on both sides of the realm of giving their values. So, I mean, what's up, guys? What's up, Jinx Fan? How y'all
Yes.
doing?
Hey, hey guys.
Yeah. I think
Hey.
that the thing we get asked a lot is one is trading a scam, or the other thing is people who, again, usually don't do well or kind of are learning from people who maybe aren't the most credible sources or talking to people who have made it in trading. They tend to kind of go this like, well, it's gambling.
Yeah,
So why not go to the casino? I'd have just as much luck as taking 500 and slapping it on red on roulette. And the thing is it? And we had this debate in the Discord, like Jay was just saying, and we were like, you know what? Let's talk about this because we have two of these guys here who both had some times, I think, well, they'll talk about their story, but both kind of at one point were kind of working almost like professional gamblers and now
or
are in
degenerates. I
trading.
mean, you could choose whichever word.
So I'm not sure how this discussion will go. We actually haven't scripted this in any way or anything. We kind of said, like, bring it on. Let's just have an open discussion because I feel like there's two sides that can kind of be talked about here. I know where I fall on this side of the coin as somebody who also has grown up around casinos and also an avid gambler. I love
Love
to
it.
gamble, but I in my head I separate the two as very different things. I do
Exactly.
not feel like I gamble when I trade. But we can talk about that a little bit more. So let's introduce you guys. Jinx, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself. We've met both of these guys in previous podcasts, so you guys could all check those episodes out. We'll probably link them or something like that if
Just
you
a
want to
quick
know
little
more about
rundown
who
again.
they
Yeah.
are. But
Uh,
tell us about who you are and I want to know about your history in gambling. So that
sure.
way, because I don't know that.
Sure. So I actually before I got into like video editing and broadcasting, which was actually like my career background, I went to school and like my first semester there, I was taking statistics because I wanted to be a professional poker player. And
Nice.
my parents talked me out of it. Obviously, they said like no future in that and all that kind of stuff. And statistics always interested me and kind of that concept within poker or within casino games to develop an edge like within statistics. And it didn't seem like there was a future for probabilities and statistics outside of gambling, or outside of kind of like converting the gambling into having an edge to take that to a casino and try and get a positive expected return out of visiting the casino. Fast forward, like almost 20 years, and I stumbled upon day trading, and I was like, oh, I can make probabilities work for me. This is cool. So that's
Yes.
where I've been like the past year and a half or so is in this trading world, kind of working on that refining the edge within a mechanical system and using risk management. And unknowingly, 15, 16, 17 years ago when I was in the casino, I didn't realize that those were the types of things that I was, I guess, employing to kind of get ahead. If I sat down at a poker table with people, I knew that my risk management, say like I walked in with $50 and I wanted to play low limit hold'em, for like an hour. Like I would go in with very specific rules. I would play for an hour, and then whether I was up or down after an hour, I would leave. If I ever doubled my money, I would leave. If I ever walked, that was the money I walked. Or if I ever lost my money, I would walk, because that's the money, like that's the only money I brought there. Like it was all about having structure and rules. And I find that that's a lot of, when you brought this up the other day, I thought it was so funny because I found that like all these things went off in my head. I was like, oh man, I used risk management back then and I didn't even know it, so it's cool to see kind of how a lot of these things, a lot of these skills can translate. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like rush out to the casino, watch a couple of YouTube videos and like head
I mean, and that's how you do it,
Not
right?
yeah, but I'll say this, and I think I'm going to let Sven take it over, but there's a reason why the same, 20, 30 people end up at like the finishing tables of the poker tournaments every year. Like they're not the 20 or 30th luckiest people in the world. They've developed mechanical systems. They developed an edge within their system. There's a reason that they're career blackjack players. Sorry, Christy, there's probably aren't like career slot players, but there are things that there are certain games
Huge forearms.
yeah, so there are games that from a first glance they seem like a game of chance, but they can be games of skill. And trading is just like that. Trading at a first glance can just seem like a coin flip, and heads or tails, 50-50, but it doesn't have to be like that at all.
So Sven, your parents clearly didn't sway you from becoming a professional poker player, I feel like.
Actually, they kind of tried. So I used to be a professional poker player. I played as it in Ghost, like to earn my income during my student days, and it just ended because the big sites, PokerStars and I've already forgotten, FTP, got taken down because they did some shady things with the players' monies, and so the SEC shut them down. So that made a hard stop on my poker career because poker in Germany isn't that big, so you need the American market. There's a lot of similarities between playing poker and trading. So similar to trading, you do it because you have an edge. You have a positive expectancy because you're skilled. But each hand you get dealt is unique, and anything can happen. So you don't know, even if you're the best player in the world and you have the best cards, the highest probabilities, you still might lose. So you need to deploy risk management, like Zhang said. So, and if you do that, and you do it in that way that you can play hands often enough for your edge to play out, then you make money long term. And the short story about my parents, I actually did get an intervention for my parents and my close friends, because I'm a very humble person. So whenever I told about my poker playing, I told it big when people like get the golden hand and the one outer, and I lost a big pot. So they already heard from me like those losing stories, and they said, hey, when we see to sit down, you have a problem. And I didn't know what they meant, why I have a problem. When I understood that I thought I was losing money, I just opened my poker app, showed them my bank account, and the story was over at that point. But it was quite funny.
Results talk for themselves.
Exactly.
Jinx, when we edit this, can we put like a banner above Sven's head that's like, "Dear Sven, we love you. This is your intervention." That is funny. And like, I think it actually, I'm going to transition this a little bit to trading, just because I think that even for me, I can relate to that. I didn't professionally gamble ever, which is why I'm not talking about this. I am a slot person, and I sit at the penny slots for my free drinks. That's what I was telling the guys. Beyond that, I mean, yeah, blackjack and all that, but I don't play by the rules, and I just I piss everyone else off at the table because I mess up their cards. So, I know my limits. But when it comes to trading, obviously it's a different story. And you guys all know that if you follow me, or you guys know what we do here in the trading floor, like obviously risk management's huge. But I think it's funny when you talk about family stuff like that, because although my family is extremely supportive and understand now, I think they understand what I do now. Sometimes I still think that they don't understand, but I think everybody can relate to probably trying to tell their like friends or family or loved ones about trading, and everybody's initial reaction is that it's a scam, or like, oh, you're not going to make money over, oh, that's so risky, or it's gambling. Like all these words come up, and I think until you can prove to them and show them that account where you're like, is it, and then you show them the money, they're like, oh, wait a second, now everyone wants to learn, well, what are you doing? How are you doing that? Now all of a sudden everyone's your best friend and your believer. So I think that it's funny when you say that, because I definitely had that experience a lot from people. I got told so many times that they were like, it's a pyramid scheme. and like it's like just scams that, you know,
If
like
you
just so
actually like devote
I-
the time and like research things, then you probably wouldn't
Yeah.
have that regard. You'd be like, oh, this is hard, but it's not really a scam. It just
and
takes a lot of work to do to be
let's not
profitable.
deny there are scammers. There are
Oh
people
yeah.
who truly do this in this market, obviously take advantage of it, but they're scamming in anything that, you know, creates money in some sort of way. So do your research and your homework. Make sure you're really looking into things. Don't just blindly believe somebody. If it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. Can you make money off of trading? Yes, absolutely. My personal opinion, and then we'll get into all the guys stuff. I personally think that trading, when you enter it in with the knowledge that you need to have, you have done your testing and collected your data, and you have analytics that prove to you that you have an edge now with this strategy. And lastly, you follow that strategy. You don't break the rules. You don't go, oh, well, like, I don't know, you don't get emotional. Oh, well, I'm going to double here, but when you wouldn't have doubled here or something like that. When you stick to it and you have that strong enough of a mindset to it, I think that that all adds up to give you this edge. And when you're looking at the definition, which we'll read to you in a second about gambling, it's about taking risk. And like all they're saying is there a risk? And there's a risk involved in everything you do in your life, no matter what. But it's about like lowering that risk and upping your odds of a win of some sort. And to me, I feel like when you go into something with an edge, so you've done your homework, you've done your job at looking at it, you have this edge now or a strategy and you're following it. I don't feel like I'm gambling because my risk management and all that, that's all included and it's tight. And I think that that's where it separates it from me, because there's no, for me, I don't have an edge when I gamble. I just pulling a slot machine lever. You know, I have no clue what it's doing. I have no control over it. I have no edge. That to me is like gambling because of the way I gamble. But the way
I mean, for
you guys do
me,
it is fascinating. And I think you guys have edges. So I don't think even then it's gambling in that sense. I feel like it's betting. Like, you know, I think that's
mean,
the
Yeah, it's hard.
this is
It's
a
hard to
fine line.
define. The funny thing is, if you look up how gambling is defined, I actually pulled up the definition of gambling for the stream, and there are some strong similarities to what we do. So if you open up Oxford like I did, you will see two definitions for what it means to do gambling, and it says one, play games of chance for money. So if we dissect this one, for money, yeah, sure, we're in it for money in trading, right? That's our outcome. Game of chance. Chance means there are probabilities involved. Yes, of course. Games, of course, I really don't like it, but given
like
that the
games.
science is called game theory, we really can't argue with that. And playing is a bit like a moot point because playing kind of sounds like you change money for just having fun, which we don't do. We do to generate money. But overall, pretty strong similarity to what we do, right? And the second part, it says, take risky action in the hope of a desired result. And we kind of do that too. We enter into a trade and we go long because we think prices will rise and we get to our take profit. So we hope for a desired result and we don't know for certain because there are probabilities involved. So still a huge similarity. And yes, we also take risk because to trade, we have to put our money on the line. So we have risk. It's a well-defined risk because we know where our stop loss is, how our position size is, how much money we will lose if the trade goes against us. So very well-defined, but still we have risk involved. But it's not risky because our risk is so well defined in size that we know we can do that 100 times, 200 times, depending on how big your risk actually is. But we always say don't take more than 1%. So you could do the same trade 100 times before you really run close to out of money. And that's the thing that really is the difference between gambling, because a gambler puts everything on one card.
Mm-hmm.
But we do it over and over again, because in that, if we do it over and over again, we can have our edge play out. We need those high numbers, those repetitions to actually see our edge play out. And I think it's easier to quickly go back to poker to take a look at what edge means. Let's take Texas Hold'em, what I did play. You only have your 2 hole cards and pre-flop, that's all you see. So let's take your heads up with a play. You have aces, the very best hand in Texas Hold'em pre-flop, and the other guy has kings, second best hand. And it's pretty normal on low stake games that you go put all chips into the basket before you actually see cards. And because we know what the cards are in the deck, we know exactly what our probabilities are. So the guys with the aces has an 80% win rate within this hand, and the guy with kings, or the person with kings, has a 20% chance of winning that hand. Short term, within this hand, anything can happen. Even though with aces, we have a very high chance of winning, we still could lose. If we do it 2 times, 5 times, we might still lose all these tries. So even though we have a very strong edge because we should win 80%, we might still lose a couple of times. But if we do it over and over again, so if we only put it like 100% all of our money within that one hand, that's gambling because we could lose and then we're done, we're toast. But if we know that, hey, we have an edge, but we need time, repetition to actually play it out, so let's say we only take 1% and we run that same hand 100 times, we are pretty sure we're winning 80% of the times because the numbers are high enough so that the luck is out of the equation. And it's a funny thing, so I'm German, and in Germany, gambling means Glücksspiel, which translates to game of luck. I think that's a way better description because short term, it's luck. What happens in a given hand is luck. What happens in a given trade is luck. Anything can happen in the market, even though we might know from back testing, from all our studies, that if we enter at that specific point in the market, we might have a 70% chance of winning. Anything can happen, anything. Maybe a terrorist attack or someone starts a war in Europe. Who knows? Anything can happen, right? So what the outcome of that one incident is completely random, completely luck. But if you get lucky over and over again, that's skill, and that's when you see you have an edge. And that's what we do. We risk down, we find our edge, and we exploit over and over again, and that's how we make money. Short term, each trade, pure luck, pure randomness. But over and over again, our edge will show, and we will make money. And that's the difference between gambling, because a gambler will put everything on one hand, on one card, and just pray for it. And the skilled person will know, hey, I have an edge, but I need those repetitions to survive long enough to my edge to play out. And that's the big difference. So to sum it up, trading as well as poker playing has a lot of common with gambling. But what really sets apart is having an edge, so you don't lose money in the long run, because many gamblers will be super emotional driven. And the trader is the complete opposite. A trader is almost emotionless when it comes to how he trades.
Should be.
And he does it over and over again.
As close as possible.
I actually want to spin it back to you, Jinx. So where I thought that was kind of interesting and what you brought up earlier is that how you almost had like a mechanical system whenever you were doing the low limits for poker. So before you go into that, I actually want to ask you a question. When you first started trading, was it more of like you were just kind of going off your gut feeling, or like you didn't have, let me just put it this way, yes or no, you didn't have like a mechanical system that had an edge when you first went trading? So the ironic thing is you tried to treat the gambling to try and not gamble, but then you trade the thing that isn't gambling as gambling.
I had it mixed up. I had it all backwards.
Yeah, let's get that straight before we go forward.
Because from the same exact concept, when I was living in Florida, I was living with my college roommate and their family, and I would tell them, I'm a statistics major. I want to go down to the casino and test my edge, and they would kind of urge me and say like, well, only sit down with $25 or $50, walk in, leave your credit card at home, leave everything but your driver's license at home. And that was the beginnings of risk management, that I didn't realize that I was never that guy swiping my debit card for an extra $50 to sit in. And then maybe you learn things along the way. And I didn't realize that this was like my back testing is, like I go the first week, with like $20 and sit down and I kind of learn the field, and I learn, what's going on. And you used a word before it that I wanted to bring back up with impertinence in pertaining to the edge, is you exploit things. You exploit the probabilities in your favor. So I noticed that the casino that I was going to had a lot of people who were playing these low limit games, and they were just trying to win this house progressive pot. And basically the concept is like whenever somebody at the table gets a royal flush, which Sven will tell you is very difficult. Like you see a royal flush like once a month at a casino. It's not often. Everybody at the table wins. So everybody would just stay in to play the royal flush. And now to loop back to Sven's example, I would just play aces and kings. I would just play aces, kings, and queens. And then just every time I had aces, kings, and queens, I would just be pushing. I would just be pushing my money in, pushing my money in.
This is not financial advice.
This is not financial advice. Absolutely.
No.
But this was like the beginnings of a mechanical system. And I mean, like I was 19 years old. I was young and dumb, and I didn't realize what I was doing then. But this is all translatable skill, because now I can take that and through the lens of trading say like, well, through back testing, I know that the strategy I'm running has a positive expectancy. And that's something that's a term that career gamblers or career casino players, they consider themselves like edge players. That's a term that they use a lot, is like a positive expectancy or an expected return. So like in blackjack, for example, there's something called like basic strategy or perfect basic strategy. It's not cheating or anything. It's just according to the cards, the most statistically like sound way to play. If you play by perfect basic strategy, you have and I wanted to make sure I got this right, an expected return of 99.5%, which is great. You're still losing 0.5%, but you're basically just like long-term playing to have fun at the casino. Now you can do things like I was just gonna say, that's where your expectancy goes over. If you do things like the comps, you get the free drinks, or you get the free room, the free spa weekend. So advantage players play games like blackjack where you can create an advantage. Like slots, sure, you can use risk management in a sense for something like slots, where you say, like, I'm going to the casino this weekend, I'm only bringing $200 and that's my weekend. And that's good risk management, because if you're a person who is prone to just whatever's in your pocket at the time is fair game, then that's something that you need to employ. And that's something that as we started talking more in like,
but when you talk about slots like that and you say, I'm only going to bring $200, to me, no, even though yes, you're limiting how much you could potentially lose, that's gambling, because you have no advantage sitting at a slot machine. So when we're having this discussion in Discord, my mind goes to that. So when you say gamble, that's where my head goes. When you have something like we're talking about a statistical edge, probabilities, as Sven broke down, like, yes, definition wise, do we kind of fall into that category because of how broad the definition of gambling is? Sure. But again, I see, yes, we are taking risk. Do we take a risk? That's inevitable. Yes, we take a risk. Like I said, we take a risk doing anything all day long. There's always a probability statistic of something happening. Statistically, you're more likely to get in a car accident than like a plane accident.
Louisiana drivers are terrible. I think I have a higher probability of getting in a wreck in Louisiana than losing a trade, to be honest.
But even in entrepreneurship, like, you take a risk taking a loan from the bank, and then, picking the wrong real estate location. Like, those are all risks associated along the way. There's absolutely, there's risk in everything.
There's risk, but then there's to me, there again, I know they're the same word, but they feel to different definitions to me personally. You say a risk and I think I'm taking a risk, but I know my edge, my probability. Then there's risky, which I feel like I'm not a risky trader. I'm a very meticulously, very well planned out, good risk management trader. Do I take a risk? Of course, it's called risk management. Do I think I'm a risky trader where I'm like doubling down on all my trades and I take a loss and I'm like more? Like, no, like when I hit my losses for the day, I'm done. 2 losses, I'm out for the day. I'm not trading anymore. That's where I think, like, you have these people who are, to me, I'm like, that's gambling. When you break your plan now and you say, I'm breaking my plan, I don't care, even though I know I had an edge statistically doing something else, I'm whatever, you get emotional and you get caught up in it, and then you start breaking your plan. That's when I would say trading now flips into gambling. You're trading from an emotional place and not a statistical probability place. And that's kind of where I fall into this, because I do agree, like, yes, to an extent, when you read definitions, of course we sound like gamblers. So yeah, there's an argument to be said there that yes, what we do is gambling. But does that mean that you can't do it properly, just like how you guys both were like living in casinos, which, side note, is the coolest office. Like, what a, like, just a
True.
like
I mean, I don't want to drink on the job, but I guess I'll take another whiskey.
I feel like it's
if you put it in my hand, I can't be rude.
Like, you guys are swiping in at work, but instead you're like swiping your little like members cards, like getting your points. And they're like, oh, how was your day at work with your little lunch boxes? Like, I'm imagining this whole scenario.
I got
like,
another 18 free holes at the golf course. Like, it was miserable today.
Terrible. No, that is really cool.
I would like to add, because the definition of gambling is very like strict and forward, and there's not a lot. I think there's something missing, because what a lot of people link to gambling is addiction and losing money, and both are so not true for professional trader, for profitable, consistently profitable trader, because addiction means you're acting full on emotions. You're driven by emotions. All your thought process is like, I want to get the next kick. So full on emotion. This is something we try not to do in trading, because we try to be like robots, actually, to have our trade plan and execute it perfectly. Of course, that's not how we are, because we all are humans, but a lot of professional poker players spend a lot of time understanding how your mind works, and why you are drifting towards certain things, and making sure that you understand when you're not in the right zone to trade, in the right mindset to trade. So the addiction part is clearly not what a trader will do. If he does, he will not last long as a trader, because he will just lose money. And the second part, losing money, so long-term negative expectancy, that's also what no trader will have, because we work hard to find an edge. and to execute on that edge. So we in that game to make money. So these two I think very important points when you just talk about gambling, addiction and being just losing money. No trader will have that. So there's a very clear distinction between being a gambler and being a professional trader, also a professional poker player.
I think risk management basically is the line you cross whether you add a Y or you take away the Y in the word risk. And the fact that, like you said before, like in poker, when you have double aces, like it's an 80% chance, and usually a lot of people might go all in thinking like they have a really good chance. But I mean, whether or not I have a good, great, or the best type of entry in my trade, I'm probably just risking 1%. I'm not going all in because I know my edge, like anything could happen. But I feel like it's not always the same thing and for that gambling side of things. But I mean, other than that, we're going to kind of wrap up. It's a very short podcast this time, but do y'all have any last thoughts that y'all kind of want to talk about?
So I think, one of the biggest things that probably the key takeaway of this is like one of the big differences between, gambling and trading is forming that statistical edge, and getting a positive expectancy and just trading to the point of seeing it play out. When we've talked in previous podcasts about like the 95%, failure rate, like that's part of it is people quit before they see their edge play out. So you don't ever get to see, if you back test 100 trades, 1,000 trades, and you have a 60% win rate, but then you go and, you lose your first 4 trades, statistically, your next 6 should be winners. Yeah. Play it out. It's that kind of stuff. And other things too, there's the risk management, there's a whole lot of difference between just throwing money at the market with no stop loss, and walking into a casino with a debit card is, there's a lot of similarities, but there are ways to manage your risk. And within managing your risk and within forming your edge, you're ultimately looking to kind of like stack the probabilities in your favor. You're building confluence for your trade itself. You're looking at fundamental analysis. You're going out and doing, macroeconomic analysis to see where maybe the dollar's going. So how that might affect, this pair that you're trading today, or see how oil's doing. So you might, go check out CAD, right? Right, Jay, did I get that one right? But yeah, that's the type of thing is you do all these things to stack your probabilities and stack your confluence to essentially form your edge and create a positive expectancy. Because if you don't have a positive expectancy and you don't have risk management, it is gambling. And if you approach gambling, or if you approach a casino, or you approach day trading with a get rich quick mentality, that's where the scam part comes in. You can't just
yeah. You can't watch the one YouTube video, jump in, sign up for your broker right there, and then throw money at something and be like, this is trash. Or to just kind of go off what you said.
Don't lie, Chris.
They do. No, they do. But so like he said, though, the 4, like maybe you get 4 losses in a row and you're like, this system's trash, like I don't understand, and like you didn't let it play out. And I'm gonna plug us here really quick because Strategy Wars season 3 will be starting March 1st, and that is kind of the idea behind Strategy Wars, and we'll talk more about that coming up. But I just want to kind of explain that, like, we've seen this a lot where people won't give their system the time to truly work or to show it could work. But then when we do things like Strategy Wars, where you're stuck with one strategy for an entire month, when we track those traders, we see progression in it. And we can see, like, yes, there's mental mistakes that are made, like everybody's going to make mistakes, but that's only 1 month that you're working with something for, and you can see progression, and you can see a positive return for a lot of these people who do it correctly, or have like put the work in before even getting into Strategy Wars to make sure that they have an edge. And those people do really well. And we've even met some of them on the podcast, and it goes to show, like, if you're willing to wait it out, but most people don't do it because you fall into this, like, I want this now, I need this now. And that is a mentality thing that you need to learn to work through. If you are approaching anything, not even just trading, anything in life with this like get rich quick scheme type of idea,
then you are gambling.
More times than none, you're going to be disappointed by it. And then, I feel like you're falling into the scam, and you're falling into the gambling aspect potentially of this. And that's where you'll learn those bad habits. And you're not going to focus on the type of mentality you need or the risk management needed to have those edges. So that's kind of my 2 cents. I love what you said there, though. Sven, what do you feel wrapping it up? Any last thoughts or beliefs on this?
Actually, I think Jenks put it perfectly. So what really differentiates the gambling to trading is finding your edge so you have a positive expectancy, and then combine it with the risk management that allows you to stay long enough in the game to actually see this edge playing out. That's the 2 main things that I think differentiates a true professional trader or also poker player from a gambler.
Yeah,
So
and I agree with the risky thing too. Again, going back to what you said there, where we're doing small repetitive risk over and over and over again, looking for that probability. Whereas I think a lot of times when it comes to gambling, you're looking for that high risk, high reward, quick in one hit. And most of us, not saying that there aren't traders who do that, but most of us don't teach it that way, and we don't expect it that way. It's small, quick, small little returns that we're going for, small risk that we're taking at the same time, and you just kind of build off of that. And that's usually how most of the long-term professional traders I know who have made it longer term in here do that. Not to say there aren't some riskier people out there, but for the most part, they don't last that long in the trading game if they're doing it other way, because big hits ruin an account quick, and you got to start from the bottom and go back up again. So that's, to me, is where it's like, well, that feels gamblish to me versus, I think what we all kind of do here and kind of teach here, I feel like I could feel comfortable defending us and saying we're not gamblers to the extreme that some people could be. Do we take gambles? Do we take a risk with what we do in our job? Yes. But I think that they are well-managed risk, in my opinion.
So to wrap this up, I have one final question for y'all, and we're all going to answer in unison on 3. Is trading gambling? 1, 2, 3. Yes.
No.
Oh, that's so awkward. Well, guys, that wraps up this episode. No, all jokes aside, trading is not gambling if you find your edge. But I really want to thank Jinx and Sven for coming out here on this episode. I think it's really cool to kind of get her perspective. Even if Jinx only did it for about a month or two, Sven actually like literally used to make this his job. He was a professional, so that's different because he is finding his edge in that regard. Really cool. It's very interesting how you're able to like make the transition. But I
have one last question before you.
Sorry, your own perspectives. I really like that.
I want one last question for Sven. Sven, because if you lived in the United States and things that happened that you weren't able to continue doing professional poker that happened in Germany, if you lived here in the United States, do you feel that you would still be a professional poker player?
Ooh.
Would you have continued doing it?
Probably not, because even in my professional days, I only played like 1.5 hour and 1.5 hours then doing the aftermath of everything. So I never did it like full time. It was my job as a student. So, but I always loved going towards what I would work later on the field. So it was always only on the side, and just nice to have money and easy money with that.
I know the rest of us are like working at like McDonald's as a student, and you're over here in the casinos gambling. What was I thinking?
True.
No, that's awesome. I was just curious if you would have stuck with it, or thought that you maybe missed an opportunity that maybe was kind of taken away from you because of where you lived.
Hard to say, really hard to say, because maybe I would have sized up, because you go through the within trading, we just grow our portfolio, our account, and you just take bigger and bigger trades. Within poker, it's different, because you go up the different cash and buy-in sizes, and the games get tougher and tougher and tougher. The edge will get smaller and smaller and smaller. Mm-hmm. So there's always a natural ceiling where you cannot progress any further if your skill is not there. I don't know if my skill would have grown with that, and maybe I would have been so good that I really could play with the big ones. Maybe I would have made it like my full-time job, because then the payout would be really, really nice. Yeah. But we never find out.
Yeah. Well, come on over to the US. We'll take you to the casinos.
Yeah, I would go with Shanks. We wreak havoc on some small tables.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
That'll be fun. Yeah.
We'll record a podcast. Well, we can't record in the casinos here, but whatever. We'll let you know.
Actually, you can.
If you have permission, we could live stream it. We'll get permission from them. No, but
you can go to Hustlers. They do live streams.
Okay.
But before this turns into a full-blown poker live stream, before this turns full degenerate, I'm gonna end it there. Like I said, guys, appreciate y'all coming on. This ends season 2, episode 5 of the Trading Floor podcast. As always, if you're on YouTube, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe. And if you're on Spotify, Google, Apple, and all the other podcasting apps, make sure you follow, like our podcast, actually, because it's amazing. And follow us, that way you don't miss out.
I am going to leave the comments open for this one. I am going to trust you guys.
YouTube.
I'm going to trust you guys.
Get your fingies ready.
Because but please, if you're going to comment about this, please please give like a well thought out, constructive answer, because I actually really do like hearing people's arguments for this. Jay knows me very well now, and I love to banter. I love a good, healthy, constructive argument. I love people who present both sides, and I would love to hear your guys' opinions on this. And I don't usually keep the comments open on podcasts, but for this one, I genuinely was enjoying this conversation in the Discord, where it's like, oh, interesting. And it's just funny to see people get so hype about something. So I would love to hear both sides, because I think that there's an argument to be said for both. I know where I stand on this argument, but I would love to hear your guys' opinions on this. And so anyway, this
let
one
us
I will keep the
know. Let
comments
us know
open.
if you like how we pull this from Discord and like kind of a popular, like we take a popular topic of chat and bring it to the podcast, because I think it's a fun idea. It keeps everything engaged. And
Also, if you also were a professional gambler of some sort and then came into trading, also let me know, because I think that's so fun. I didn't realize we had 2 of them in our staff. I was like, wow.
Advantage players, not gamblers.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. No, like definitely comment. Let me know if you guys are into anything like gambling, if you go to the casinos, sports betting, if you do that, anything like along those terms, and what you guys feel, if you feel like you do that as well as trading, and if you think they're different. I personally do all of those things, and I think they're totally different. To me, trading is a job, and it's a totally different world in the way that I go about doing it than when I'm like gambling for fun at the slot machine, pulling my thing for a drink, free drinks, and sports betting, a little bit fun for me too, again. But I don't think I have the advantage necessarily there, even if you're well informed about what you're like betting on. I feel like trading to me just doesn't feel like gambling. But let me know what you guys think, because I'm really, really interested in knowing this.
But
all right, you guys. Thank you, Jinx and Sven, for coming on.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Sorry.
For sure.
I know you're about to end it, but I wanted to say thanks, guys. All right, go ahead. You can end it.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you passing it back to me for the assist. But guys, as always, stay safe. Happy trading and gambling. Peace.
Bye.